So it looks like we're getting more information pour out about this Nintendo Switch 2, or whatever the successor to the Switch is going to be, where some of the investors are actually talking about exactly what Nintendo stated to them, which seems to give us a general idea as to what to expect. Now, a lot of us knew this is what we were going to get, what I'm about to tell you today, but still I've seen a lot of comments telling me that no, Nintendo's going to go off and do a completely different console that has nothing to do with the Switch. Why would they do this after 8 years? Well, apparently this isn't the case, because David Gibson, which is a senior analyst at Amnesty Financial, has actually stated this on Twitter. In the results call, when asked if the next-gen console was brand new or not, Furukawa answered, "Switch next model is the appropriate way to describe it." So there you go, you actually have it from Nintendo's mouths themselves that this is indeed the next Nintendo Switch, that this isn't going to stray too far away from the Switch. Now, I know a lot of people are going to take this the wrong way and say, that's it? This is all we're getting, is just another Switch? Well, let me tell you right now, the Switch is on its way to be the best-selling Nintendo console of all time. It is literally just behind the DS right now, and it actually has a real chance at least getting close, if not passing the DS. So this is honestly the best thing that Nintendo could do, and this is why we've been saying Switch 2 for so long. It may not be called the Switch 2, it'll probably be called something completely different, but this is something of that nature, you know, it is the next Switch. Now, real quick guys, before we dive into this video, I want to say thank you to everybody that's been liking and subscribing recently. We got over 300 subscribers yesterday, so we're on our road to 300,000 subscribers. Stop what you're doing and just leave a like and subscribe. Let's see if we can get even higher today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and let's continue with the video. Now, I see some people online getting a little bit worried by what Nintendo's going to do with this next console and if they're going to market it right, because there's definitely two options this could go. This could be a huge success as just another better Switch with better graphics, better games, and just better everything, or this could be a Wii U situation where things don't get much better, where yes, you do have better graphics and better control schemes and stuff like that, but it's just not marketed right and people just don't care as much because they think it's just an add-on to the original Wii. Well, let's see what Nintendo has done in the past, and actually tons of game companies have actually went through stuff very similar. The Game Boy went to the Game Boy Advance, which greatly changed what games look like and the graphics of everything, and this was a huge step up and a huge leap up. This wasn't just another handheld console, this was the next iteration of the Game Boy, and it is ultimately known as one of the best handheld systems ever. However, even with this new era of Game Boy Advance sold 81 million units, where the original Game Boy and Game Boy Color still sold 118 million. The 3DS was a monumental step up from the original Nintendo DS. It had extremely improved graphics. I guess in its own way you could say this was the true HD version of the DS, technically. And yes, you had a 3D depth slider which you could play games in 3D now. It had better online services, just the UI and everything about the console was a lot better. And of course, was the games. You had specific games that you could only play on the 3DS that you could not play on the regular DS, but it was completely backwards compatible. Of course, this is something that we've also seen with the Game Boy Advance and the Game Boy Color and all those past consoles, but still, yes, this was the next step in the next iteration. It added tons of new features, including even an inner-facing camera, which we didn't really need, but you have that, and outer-facing cameras, and just updated stylus, you know, motion sensors, just a whole lot. It was just the better version of the DS. But even with that in mind, the Nintendo 3DS sold 75 million units, but of course the DS being the best-selling Nintendo console at 154 million. So as you can see, there's a slight worry of the successor not doing anywhere near quite as well as the original console, and it gets even worse with the Wii U. We all know of the travesty of the Wii U. It had its ups and it had its downs, highs and lows of course, but mostly lots of lows. The advertisement could be explained as just abysmal, where the marketing just was not there, and a lot of people were confused about what this console was even going to be. Was it an additional add-on to the original Wii? Was it something new entirely? We really didn't know. But of course, the console itself was actually really good. In fact, it was the first time we got HD, full-fledged Nintendo games, which actually felt really cool, where we could see games at a brighter light than we've ever seen them before. The Wii U gamepad was iffy, and the fact that it was forced upon, you know, lots of games was also very iffy, but at the same time, the Wii U wasn't a bad console, it's just the way Nintendo handled it was very bad. But either way, yeah, the sales definitely prove that, where the Wii U only sold 13 million units, which is so so bad. But the original Wii selling 101 millions as one of the best consoles out there. So yeah, it was a staggering difference. Now, let's not freak out though, because I see this Switch 2 being more along the lines of a successor in the vein of the PlayStation 2 or even the Xbox 360, where the Xbox 360 was a huge success over the original Xbox, where the Xbox 360 sold 84 million units, where the original Xbox only sold 24 million. We even need to talk about the PlayStation 2. Still, to this day, it is the best-selling console of all time, just slightly above the original Nintendo DS, and just a little bit away from the Nintendo Switch. The PlayStation 2 absolutely took the world by storm. It was brand new graphics, brand new games, and the game console to have back then. Man, I remember growing up and just hearing people talk about this thing everywhere. It was so huge, and of course the sales definitely showed it, where the PlayStation 2 sold a whopping 155 million units, and the original PlayStation still sold a pretty good 102 million. So yeah, the PlayStation 2 was just bigger and even better than an already really good, really well-selling PlayStation, 1. So I guess in Nintendo's boat, their own console sequels, I guess you could call them, have always sold less than the previous console. That's definitely a fact, but there's still a chance that we could definitely see a PlayStation 2 situation or an Xbox 360. The way this is sounding right now, it sounds like from all the leaks and rumors that this next Nintendo Switch is going to be the most powerful Nintendo console ever by a large margin, with extremely high frame rates and extremely good graphics as well, which is already going to be coupled by an amazing fact that you can take the console on the go and portability, so to actually have that power now behind it is going to make all the difference. It's also more than power though, because what sells units the most, without a doubt, is video games. If you don't have good games, who cares? Why would anybody want to dive into a new $400, $500 console just to play the same games that they have already been playing on the original Switch? And this is apparently why Nintendo had an internal delay, at least that's what the rumors are suggesting, that Nintendo did not have their lineup ready, that they had tons of games they still wanted to work on to get ready for a huge year one of the new Switch, so they had to push it back to the beginning of next year, rather the end of this year. I mean, just look at what you had to play with the Wii U when it came out. I mean, it was literally like 98% third-party titles that no one could really care less about, and the only Nintendo property titles that you really had was New Super Mario Bros. U and Nintendo Land. And look, I love Nintendo Land. I mean, clearly, it's my name here, and I really hope we get another one, but still, it's not something that's going to drive non-Nintendo players to come buy this game, or this console, rather. And yeah, New Super Mario Bros. U was just another New Super Mario Bros. That pretty much exactly copied the one from the Wii. It still sold like hotcakes, of course, but still, it just wasn't enough to really drive consumers to buy this thing. Now, I think it's clear that Nintendo has definitely learned their lesson from this. I mean, just look at the Nintendo Switch as it launched with one of the biggest Nintendo video games of all time, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So I'm sure that they have another really huge banger ready to go at the beginning of the Switch 2's life cycle. I mean, after all, we're approaching 7 years without a 3D Mario since Super Mario Odyssey in 2017. So if that's any hope, we'll probably see a 3D Mario game, if not a launch title, year one of the Switch for sure. Not to mention Mario Kart 8 has been since like 2014 on the Wii U since it's come out. Yes, we've gotten Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and DLC packs, but it's been so long, it's definitely time for a new Mario Kart, and it feels like a year one title as well. You just keep flushing out really popular titles to get people to buy the console. You get a Smash Bros in there within the first 2 years, you're doing great, and maybe another Splatoon in there, along with other titles like another Animal Crossing and maybe even Metroid Prime 4 being in that year one slot. There's a lot that Nintendo could do to really generate console sales. Nintendo has the IPs, it's just up to them to release them, and they've been holding back, I feel like, a lot of them for a while. I mean, we haven't even seen an original Donkey Kong game the entire 7 to 8 year span of the current Nintendo Switch, so I'm sure they have a lot of juicy stuff under their sleeves that we just don't even know about. So no, I'm really not worried about Nintendo Switch 2. I feel like that's exactly what we need. Just another more powerful, different version of the current Nintendo Switch that runs brand new games at a higher frame rate and also better graphics, and also gives us tons of new gadgets and stuff to play around with. Hopefully the new Switch has better UI and maybe even actual themes to customize our Switch's home menus, at least, at the very least. But yeah, that's all we honestly need from Nintendo, because let's face it, We love the Switch and its portability and everything that it can do, but still, it's still kind of bare bones as far as to what a home console slash hybrid console can do with its menus and its extra modes and stuff. You know, we just love the games. The games have been so good for Nintendo Switch, and that's what's going to be so good for this next console. I'm sure it's going to have some fun new gimmicks and stuff, but we're really looking forward to the games, and I think that's what's going to drive and sell this new console. Is it going to sell as much as the original Switch? Probably not, but I do see it being very, very successful if Nintendo markets it right. But let me know in the comments down below what you think about this. Do you think the Switch 2 is a good idea, or do you think Nintendo should have went with something completely different and altered the entire console altogether? But thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe before you head out, and like always, I'll see you all on the next one. See ya, guys.